The sun filters through the ancient trees of Amari Forest, a place that seems untouched by time. Birds are singing, and a gentle wind whispers through the leaves. It's the kind of peace you read about in storybooks. But this peace is about to be shattered. A figure bursts from the dense foliage, her cloak torn, her breath coming in ragged gasps. This is Amari, and she's running for her life. Behind her, the heavy thud of armored boots grows closer. 3 pursuers, clad in steel, crash through the undergrowth. Their leader shouts, his voice echoing through the woods, "There, don't let her reach the veil." Amari doesn't look back. She's a blur of motion, dodging fallen logs, leaping over tangled roots, and sliding under low-hanging vines. Her movements are graceful, agile. She's not fighting, she's escaping. She's driven by pure desperation. Up ahead, a deep gorge splits the forest in two. Spanning it is a single, narrow, rickety bridge. It's her only way forward, but, as she reaches it, she skids to a halt. It's a dead end. She's cornered. The pursuers close in, their armor glinting in the dappled sunlight. Just as all hope seems lost, a voice calls out from the other side of the gorge. A young man, Krestu, stands there, a bundle of firewood in his arms. He looks from Amari to her pursuers, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. "Ah, you look like you're in trouble," he says, stating the obvious. Amari, still breathless, pleads with him, "Please, I just need to cross. They can't reach me." The pursuers are almost upon her. "Step aside, woodsman," one of them growls. "This doesn't concern you." Krestu swallows nervously, but a flicker of defiance lights up his eyes. "When people are being chased through the forest, it kind of does concern everyone," he replies. In one swift motion, he grabs a thick rope anchoring the bridge and yanks it hard. The bridge lurches sideways, sending the lead pursuer stumbling. Seizing her chance, Amari darts across the unstable bridge, reaching Krestu's side just in time. "Thank you," she gasps. The remaining pursuers try to follow, but their heavy armor is their undoing. With a loud crack, a wooden plank snaps under their weight. They scramble back to the safety of the cliff edge, unable to cross. Their leader glares across the chasm. This isn't over, he bellows, before they turn and retreat back into the forest. Amari turns to Krestu, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved me," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "I must reach Zeran urgently." Krestu raises an eyebrow. "A wizard? We don't get many of those around here." He pauses, thinking for a moment. A slow smile spreads across his face. "But I might know someone." With a new sense of purpose, Krestu leads Amari away from the gorge and onto a winding forest path. As they walk, he can't contain his curiosity. "Why were those men chasing you?" he asks. Amari looks at him, her expression serious. "I carry a message that must reach Zeran the Wise. It could save all of Citolin." Krestu stops dead in his tracks. Stunned. "Wait, Zeran the Wizard." Amari nods, a glimmer of hope finally shining in her eyes. This is just the beginning of their epic journey. A desperate message, a reluctant hero, and a kingdom on the brink of collapse. We find Zeran just outside his house, humming a rather terrible tune while stirring a big, bubbling pot. Suddenly, a familiar voice cuts through the air. "Krestu, to Zeran. Zeran, we need to talk." Zeran lets out a dramatic gasp. Then, a wide smile breaks across his face as he spots Amari standing beside Krestu. "Krestu, you brought a guest. And not one of your usual forest creatures, I see," he says with a chuckle. Amari, ever respectful, gives a slight bow. "Wizard Zeran, your world is in danger," she says, her voice grave. Zeran's cheerful expression instantly vanishes, replaced by a look of intense seriousness. He motions for them to follow him inside. The interior of Zeran's house is a whirlwind of organized chaos. Maps are pinned to every wall, books are stacked in towering piles, and strange, glowing magical trinkets litter every available surface. It's the den of a true, albeit eccentric, wizard. Amari carefully places a glowing scroll onto a large wooden table, its light pulsating softly. Zeran, she states, the name hanging heavy in the air. His armies are conquering Sitlan. The valley needs the Luminary. Zeran doesn't look at the scroll. Instead, his gaze shifts, landing squarely on Krestu, with a profound, meaningful look. Krestu, the time has come. Krestu looks confused, shifting his weight. Time for what? He asks, a note of uncertainty in his voice. Without another word, Zeran moves to an old, unassuming chest tucked away in a corner. He opens it, and a brilliant, ethereal light spills out, illuminating the room. Inside rests the Luminary blade, its surface shimmering with a powerful, untamed magical energy. Krestu instinctively takes a step back, his eyes wide. No, I'm just a guide. I can't, he starts, shaking his head. Zeran cuts him off, his voice firm but kind. The prophecy chose you long before you were born. Amari steps closer, her expression gentle and understanding. She looks at Krestu. Krestu, the Luminary isn't someone perfect. He's someone who won't turn away when people need help. Krestu's mind flashes back to the collapsing bridge, to the moment he didn't hesitate to save her. He looked from her face to the magnificent sword, a war of hesitation and an undeniable pull raging within him. Later that evening, in a clearing bathed in the soft light of dusk, Krestu is awkwardly trying to train with the Luminary blade. It feels heavy and foreign in his hands. Zeran watches from the side, a clear look of amusement on his face. Less chopping firewood, more balance, he calls out. Try not to drop the blade this time, eh? As if on cue, Krestu stumbles over his own feet, nearly falling, and the sword clatters to the ground. Amari, watching nearby, can't help but let out a small giggle. Krestu groans, pushing himself up. I thought magic swords were supposed to help, he complains, picking up the blade. Zeran just smiles. Only if you work with it, not against it. Feel its energy. Let it guide you. Krestu takes a deep breath, closes his eyes for a moment, and tries again. He raises the sword, and this time, his stance is a little better, a little more stable. Amari watches him, a hopeful smile gracing her lips. This was just the beginning of a very, very long journey. Over the next few days, the forest clearing becomes Krestu's training ground. Every morning, from sunrise to midday, he practices. Zeran is a tough but fair teacher. He makes Krestu practice stances until his legs burn, run drills through the dense woods, and meditate to connect with the blade's energy. It's grueling work. Krestu, used to the quiet life of a guide, finds himself exhausted and often frustrated. The sword feels more like a burden than a weapon. One afternoon, after dropping the blade for what felt like the 100th time, he throws his hands up in despair. I can't do this. I'm not a warrior. I'm not this. Luminary. Zeran walks over and picks up the sword, holding it out to him. Being a warrior isn't about natural talent, Krestu. It's about getting back up every time you fall. The prophecy didn't choose you because you were already a hero. It chose you for your heart. Amari, who had been quietly mending a tear in her cloak, adds softly, We believe in you, Krestu. Her simple words seem to give him a renewed sense of strength. He takes the sword from Zeran, his grip a little tighter, his resolve a little stronger. Meanwhile, Zeran spends his afternoons poring over his ancient maps and scrolls, searching for information on Zeran and his shadow army. His brow is often furrowed in concentration. One evening, he calls Krestu and Amari over to his table. He points to a faded section of a map depicting the northern mountains. Voron's power comes from a dark source, a corrupted relic hidden deep within the Shadowfang peaks. It amplifies his magic, allowing him to create his armies of shadow creatures. To have any chance of stopping him, we must first find a way to counter this dark energy. He then unrolls another scroll, this one showing a diagram of a complex magical artifact, the Sunstone of Eldoria. Legend says it holds the pure light of the first dawn. Its power is the direct opposite of Voron's shadow magic. If we can find it, it could give the Luminary blade the strength it needs to defeat him. Amari's eyes light up with recognition. The Sunstone. It was said to be lost in the ruins of the Sky Temple atop Mount Cinder. Zeran nods grimly. Exactly. A place no one has dared to venture for centuries. It's protected by ancient guardians and treacherous terrain. Krestu looks from the map to his companions. The path ahead was becoming clearer, but infinitely more dangerous. The decision is made. They must retrieve the Sunstone. Their journey takes them out of the familiar Green Valley and into the harsh, ashen foothills of the Cinder Mountains. The air grows thin and smells of sulfur. The landscape is a barren wasteland of black rock and dried-up riverbeds. It's a stark contrast to the lush forests Krestu calls home. During their travels, Krestu continues his training whenever they make camp. The harsh environment seems to sharpen his focus. He practices his sword forms against the backdrop of jagged peaks, his movements becoming more fluid, more confident. He and Amari also grow closer, sharing stories of their homes and their hopes for the future by the campfire each night. He learns of the beauty of Citolin, the city she's fighting to protect, and she learns of his deep connection to the forest and its creatures. A bond of true friendship is forming between them, forged in the face of a shared destiny. Zeran, for his part, acts as their guide and mentor, sharing his vast knowledge of history, magic, and the dangers that lie ahead. He teaches Krestu not just how to fight, but how to think like a leader, how to anticipate their enemies' moves. Finally, after days of arduous travel, they stand at the base of Mount Cinder. It's an intimidating sight, a jagged monolith of volcanic rock that seems to pierce the sky. A narrow, winding path, barely visible, snakes its way up the treacherous slope. The path to the Sky Temple is not just a physical climb, Zeran warns, his voice low. It is a test of spirit. The mountain itself will try to turn you back. As they begin their ascent, they quickly understand what he means. Rock slides suddenly occur on stable ground. Phantom whispers echo on the wind, trying to sow doubt and fear. And illusions of loved ones in peril flicker at the edge of their vision. They must rely on each other to stay focused and push through the magical deceptions. At one point, Krestu nearly tumbles from a ledge, but Amari grabs his arm just in time. In another instance, Amari is paralyzed by an illusion of her city in flames, but Krestu's voice, calm and steady, breaks her out of the trance. They are learning to be a team, their individual strengths complementing each other. Their journey up the mountain is a testament to their growing trust and resilience. They are no longer just a wizard, a princess, and a guide. They are becoming a fellowship, united by a single, vital purpose. The fate of the world rests on their shoulders, and they will face it together. Deep in the Amari forest, where the ancient trees whisper secrets to the night, the armored pursuers regrouped. Their metallic forms glinted under the cold moonlight, a stark contrast to the living, breathing world around them. At their head stood a new figure, cloaked in shadows that seemed to cling to him, deeper and darker than the night itself. This was their commander. His voice was a low growl, a sound that promised violence and held no room for mercy. One of his soldiers approached, kneeling with a report. The commander listened, his unseen face turned towards the deeper woods. "They've found the wizard," he rasped, the words cutting through the quiet hum of the forest. "Prepare the strike." He paused, his gaze sweeping over his disciplined troops. "We capture the girl and the boy." His orders were simple, absolute. There would be no escape. Miles away, unaware of the approaching doom, a small campfire crackled, a lone beacon of warmth and light in the vast darkness. Krestu, Amari, and Zeran sat huddled around it, the flames dancing in their eyes. The aroma of roasted roots and berries filled the air, a simple meal that felt like a feast after their long journey. The sky above was a brilliant tapestry of stars, a sight so beautiful it almost made them forget the dangers they faced. Krestu, chewing thoughtfully, broke the comfortable silence. He looked at Zeran, his young face earnest and full of questions. "So, how do I actually heal things?" He made quote marks in the air with his fingers, still grappling with the immense power he was told he possessed. Zeran, the wise old wizard, looked up from the fire, his expression gentle. He didn't offer a complex spell or a secret incantation. Instead, his answer was simple, yet profound. "You ask questions," he said, his voice calm and steady. "You help people. You uncover truth." He let the words sink in, emphasizing that true healing wasn't just about mending wounds, but about mending the world, one small act of understanding at a time. Amari, who had been quietly watching the two, added her own wisdom. She looked at Krestu, her gaze firm and encouraging. "And you don't give up," she said, her voice filled with a strength that belied her years. "No matter how afraid you are." Courage, she was telling him, wasn't the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. Krestu nodded slowly, absorbing their words. He looked from Zeran's knowing eyes to Amari's determined face. "Ask questions. Help people uncover truth. Don't give up." It was a mantra, a guide. It was more than he had hoped for, and yet it felt right. He felt a flicker of understanding, a small spark of the hero he was supposed to become. For a moment there was peace. The only sounds were the crackling fire and the gentle chirping of crickets. It was a fragile, perfect moment of calm before the storm. Suddenly, a streak of fire arced through the night sky. With a whoosh and a thud, a lit torch landed just feet from their campfire, its flames hissing as they bit into the damp earth. The peaceful clearing was instantly bathed in a harsh, flickering light. Krestu's training, his instincts, everything kicked in at once. "Get down," he yelled, his voice cracking with urgency as he dove for cover. The warning came just in time. From the shadows of the surrounding trees, figures emerged. The glint of steel, the heavy tread of armored boots. As darkness fell over the forest, our heroes found themselves ambushed. A ring of grand black armored figures closed in, their faces hidden behind menacing masks. Krestu, Amari, and Zeran stood back to back, ready for the fight. The pursuers surged forward. Krestu met the first attacker, not with a killing blow, but by deflecting the enemy's sword with the flat of the Luminary blade. The strange weapon hummed in his hand, its light pushing back the encroaching shadows. He moved with a newfound confidence, a dance of defense that was both graceful and strong. Beside him, Zeran, the old wizard, raised his staff. He wasn't casting fireballs or lightning bolts. Instead, he summoned powerful gusts of wind. With a sweep of his arm, a howling gale sent a group of attackers tumbling backward, their armor clattering as they crashed into the trees. They struggled to regain their footing, disoriented by the magical whirlwind. Amari was a blur of motion. She didn't need a magical blade or ancient spells. Her agility was her weapon. She flipped over one pursuer, using their shoulder as a springboard, and rolled under the clumsy swing of another. Her movements were fluid and precise, a whirlwind of acrobatic dodges that left her enemies swinging at empty air. She was untouchable, a phantom in the fray. Suddenly, a larger figure emerged from the ranks, taller, with a darker cape and a mask that was sharper and more severe than the others. This was their commander. Ignoring Krestu and Zeran, he locked his gaze on Amari. Seeing her as the weakest link, he lunged, his sword aimed directly at her. Time seemed to slow. Amari twisted away, but the commander was fast, his blade grazing her arm. Before he could strike again, Krestu was there, stepping between them. The Luminary blade met the commander's sword with a resonant clang that echoed through the forest. The commander looked Krestu up and down, his voice a low growl from behind the mask. "You aren't the Luminary. You're just a boy." Krestu's grip tightened on the hilt of his blade. He met the commander's gaze, his expression firm and unwavering. "Maybe," he said, his voice clear and steady. Then, swinging the sword with a surge of unexpected power, he declared, "But I'm not letting you hurt my friends." As he spoke, the Luminary blade erupted in a brilliant, blinding light. A shockwave of pure energy blasted outward, not cutting, but pushing. The commander was thrown backward, skidding across the forest floor until he hit a large oak tree with a heavy thud. The remaining pursuers froze, staring at the glowing blade and their fallen leader. The commander, groaning, pushed himself to his feet. He gave a sharp, frustrated signal with his hand. Without another word, the attackers turned and retreated, melting back into the shadows from which they came, leaving our heroes alone in the sudden, quiet stillness of the woods. The battle was over, for now. What an incredible scene. The way they each used their unique skills to protect one another is just fantastic. He's not wearing shining armor or a crown, just simple leather and a green tunic, the clothes of a forest dweller. His sword, which just moments ago was a blur of silver light cutting through the enemy ranks, now feels heavy in his hand. He's exhausted, but he stands tall. Next to him is Amari, a nimble and fierce warrior in her own right. She looks at Krestu with a mix of relief and awe. "You protected us," she says, her voice full of emotion. But she's not just talking about herself and the old wizard with them. She means everyone, the innocent people threatened by the darkness. She tells him, that's what the Luminary does. See, the Luminary isn't just a title. It's a legacy, a protector of the light, a role that has been vacant for far too long. Krestu looks from his sword, still stained with the dust of battle, to Zeran, the wise old wizard. Zeran has been guiding him, mentoring him, seeing a potential that Krestu himself couldn't. This entire battle, this impossible victory, was a test to see if Krestu had the strength, the courage, and most importantly, the heart to take up the mantle. For Krestu, this is a massive turning point. He's not a prince, not a chosen one from some grand prophecy he's known about his whole life. He's just a young man who did what was right. But now, he has a choice. He can go back to his simple life, or he can accept this new, terrifying, and world-changing responsibility. You can see the conflict in his eyes. He's processing the fight, the lives lost, and the future that rests on his shoulders. Then, with a deep breath that seems to carry the weight of the entire forest, he makes his decision. He looks at Zeran, his expression no longer uncertain, but filled with a newfound determination. "Okay, I'll do it," he says, his voice steady. "I'll be the Lu—" At that moment, the entire world seems to hold its breath. Zeran places a hand on Krestu's shoulder, his old eyes crinkling with pride. He's been waiting for this, hoping for it. Then the real journey begins, Zeran says, and you know he's right. Defeating one commander and his army was just the prologue. The true adventure, the trials that will forge Krestu into the legend he's destined to become, starts now. The final shot of the episode is the three of them, the young hero, the agile warrior, and the wise wizard standing together under the rising moon. A new trio, a new hope, a new beginning. And that's where we leave you, hanging on the edge of your seat, wondering what comes next. What dangers will they face? What secrets will they uncover? What does it truly mean to be the Luminary? This is just the end of episode 1, and it sets the stage for an incredible saga. We're exploring themes of destiny, choice, and what it means to be a hero when you feel like an ordinary person. If you love epic fantasy, character-driven stories, and a world rich with lore and magic, you are going to love Heir of the Luminary. What do you think of this ending? Does it get you excited for what's to come? Let me know your theories about Krestu's journey in the comments below. And if you don't want to miss a single moment of this adventure, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.